Hey everyone, I just couldn't wait. Let's go ahead and just dive in that demonstration where it comes to using our access list to be able to filter traffic. We're going to play with all types of different flavors, and we're going to look at what's involved in it. And the best way to be able to do that is going to be using our GNS3 session. So right now in our GNS3 session, what I have is where we left off in the last class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my config and just verify that I have reachability. So I'm going to ping 1.1.1.1, source it from, actually we'll just do a straight configuration. I can ping it. Now can I source it from LO0? I can. And can I source it from LO100? And I can. So we have all the reachability in the world that we want. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of these prefixes. I'm going to say I want to allow the system to accept pings going out to R1 being sourced from the network 11.11.11.0/24. So let's look at exactly what's involved in that process. I need to create an access list. First of all, I need to see if there is one. Show access list. We don't have one configured. Now I'm going to filter it based on the source address. So I'm going to do it based on the network 11.11.11.0. So let's take a look and see what's going on here. So config T, how do I do that? Well, first of all, I just type access-list. I'm going to specify an access list number. We'll just start with 1 to keep things simple. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to permit traffic coming from 11.11.11.0/24. That's all there is to it. Show access list. Do show access list. There's my access list. Now the idea here is can I still ping? Can I ping? So let's see. Ping 1.1.1.1. Source it from LO0. Need to use the do. And I can. Can I source it from 100? I can. I have reachability. Well, that's because I haven't applied the access list. Let's go to an interface. Interface G10. GI10. And let's apply that access list. We apply an access list using the command IP access-group command. And what we're going to do is use context-sensitive help, and we can see that I can list this as a access list for 1 to 199, and I can also use this as to represent my extended ranges or my expanded ranges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply access list 1. The main thing that I want to realize here is that I can do this directionally. So I can apply this access list in, which means I'd be filtering on anything sourced from 11.11.11.0 inbound, but that makes no sense because that prefix only exists on my device. The way I want you to think of it is if we're the router and we were to extend our arm out, traffic that's going to be outbound would be coming from us out to the rest of the world. Traffic coming inbound on an interface would be coming through the interface into the router itself. So what I want to do is I want to actually apply this out. And I'm going to hit return. Now let's see what ends up happening. Can I ping 1.1.1 and source it from LO0? And I can. Let's take a look at my access list. Show access list. Well, that looks pretty interesting. Let's see what's going on now because it's allowing it. But the question is I'm not seeing any kind of incrementation. Well, the problem is the fact that when we look at this, are we really matching anything at all with this access list? Can I ping another interface here? Let's say source it from loopback 100. I still have the capability of pinging. So when I come up and I do a show access list, let's see what's going on. Notice it's not telling me anything. I'm not matching on any type of prefix at all. And this is access list 1. And again, let's take a look at this. Let's say show IP, show run interface G10. Well, there it is. It's applied. But we're not matching anything. Well, we're not matching anything because let's look at what we're actually sending. We're actually sending it sourced from a specific address. So let's get rid of this access list and make one that's going to match on 32 bits of information. How do we do that? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say config T and I'm going to say no access list 1. Do show access list. And we're going to see that access list has now disappeared. No surprise. Now what we want to do is recreate it. Let's create access list, and I'm going to say access list 1 permit, and I want to match 11, 11, 11, 11, and I could actually come in here and say I want to match exactly, or I could say permit the host 11, 11, 11, 11. That's that abbreviation command that we use, using the host. I could also say any if I so chose, if I had that requirement. So now let's see what ends up happening. Can I ping 1.1.1 sourced from LO 100? I can reach it. Show access list. Well, we're still not matching on anything according to this. And the question becomes, what's going on with regard to this list? Well, we've tried 2 different solutions. And I said I wanted to filter it on the basis of it going out. But the point is, can I really do that? Do I have the capability of filtering it as it actually leaves this interface? So let's get rid of this access list. I'm going to say config T, no access list 1. Let's go over to R1 and take a look at the interface here. Let's go ahead and recreate the access list. Config T, and we'll use the original one that we had. Access list 1, and I'm going to say permit 11, 11, 11, 0. And I'm going to match the range here. And let's see what ends up happening now. But I need to go into the interface, GI10, and I'm going to say IP access dash group 1 in. Now let's see what ends up happening, if anything at all. So when we look at this, let's see if I can ping again. Can I ping sourcing from 11 or from 1000? Yes, I can. Let's do show access list and see what happens. Notice here we matched on 15 matches. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is traffic being sourced from a router is not going to be able to be filtered leaving that router. What you want to pay attention to is that if you go to R1 and you send the information through, what's happening is that as it arrives on R1, the access list can actually process it. Now looking at exactly what's happening here, I want you to understand the issue. When we see here, we've matched 15 packets. Let's go back through here and let's run it up again. I'm going to say source it, LO, and I want it to repeat 100 times. Let's cut back over to R1, repeat our command, and what we're going to see here is that it's actually matching a number of values. So when we look at this, it's 315 total matches. So the idea is that we see that it's incremented, and what we also need to recognize here is that we're matching traffic coming in and out off of the connection based on the fact that it's matching this entire network. So the main thing that I want to pay attention to here is that this has given me the capability of being able to select which information can come through. Now what I want to do is let's cut over to R2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to ping from loopback 0, and I'm going to say repeat it 10 times. And what we're going to find here is that it's not going to go through. Now the reason it's not going through is interesting. All right, it's unreachable dot, unreachable dot, unreachable dot, and it's going to do that all 10 times for my ping. Now let's go over here and take a look at what we see on R1. I can type do show IP route, do show access list, excuse me. And what am I going to see? I'm going to see that I haven't incremented my matches, but what I did is I created an access list that's allowing the pings being sourced from the network 11.11.11.0, but it's blocking everything else. Why? Because at the end of this statement, there is an implicit deny. It's implied that I permitted all of this other traffic, which means I'm going to definitely want to deny any other traffic. So that's how the system is actually responding to that. So how do we correct that? First, I want to actually see it. So let me come over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want to add to this access list. So I'm going to say access list 1, sorry, under the interface. Do show run, pipe, section, access list. And here's the access list that I have written. Now the problem is I want to expand on this access list. That's not an issue. So let's go through here and say access list 1 permit, and I'm going to say any. Do show access list. Notice it added the permit any to the end of the statement. Now when I come back over here to R1, R2, and I repeat this ping, now it's going to work. It's going to work because when I execute my show access list here, it's going to tell me that it's matching on these particular fields. So that IP, that permit any, is working. This is going to be how I could actually allow something with regard to setting up my configuration such that I'm going to permit, pretty much this is allowing me to permit all traffic. But what happens if I want to block anything sourced from 2.2.2.2? Let's take a look at that. So if I go through here and say LO0, well, let's say 100, we're successful. Let's say arrow 0, do or show IP interface, show IP, show run interface LO0. I want to block anything coming from 2.2.2.2. Now the problem here is this. I've already got my access list configured. Now like I said, back in my day, you used to pretty much have to blow this, copy and paste it to Notepad, blow it, and then reconfigure it. But what I'm going to illustrate here is the fact that what I want to do is I'm going to match some specific information. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say config T, and then I'm going to say IP access list, and I'm going to say standard. Then I'm going to say typically a name, but here I'm going to specify a number. So access list, standard access list 1. Now what we see here is I have the capability of being able to enter edits. So notice in my access list I have 10 and 20. So looking at this, what I want to be able to do is I'm going to say I want to match and deny traffic from a specific source, 2.2.2.2. So I'm going to say 15 is my new sequence number, so it's going to put it between 10 and 20. And what I'm going to say here is I'm going to deny anything coming from the host 2.2.2.2. And that's pretty much it. So now if I come up here and say do show access dash list and hit enter, notice that it has my sequence number 15. But notice also what I told you previously. The idea is that the iOS is now more intelligent than it was when I was coming up in the tracks. This means the system is going to say, oh, well, 2.2.2.2 is a specific match. It's matching a host. So that's going to be more specific than any of the other values that I have. So iOS is actually going to rearrange the appearance, but notice it did not change my sequence numbers. 15 is now before 10. Why? Because the logic says that the more specific one has to go first. So now let's see if I can still ping 100 or ping via 100. Can I ping via loopback 0? And now I can't. Now when I go through here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out when I execute my show access list, notice my denies are actually matching and being incremented against. So the whole idea here is by this time the test is stopped. So the idea here is that it gives me granularity control, and I've demonstrated how we can edit. Now the other thing that I could do is I could come in here and I can modify this behavior. Let's create another access list. Let's create an access list that's in the extended range. So I want to match on a source and destination pair. So let's take a look at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say exit. And I'm going to say access dash list, and I'm going to specify 100. 100 means I'm at the lower range of my extended values. And then my next option is going to be I can deny or permit traffic. I can also come up with a remark that allows me to explain what's happening. But what I want to do is I'm going to say I want to permit traffic coming from a particular value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say IP. So coming in from any IP packet that's coming in. Context sensitive help again. Notice I'm defining the source. So anything that is going to be sourced from 222.222.222, and actually what I'll do is I'll say host here. Destined, because the next option here is going to be to identify the destination. So anything that's destined to the host 1.1.1.1. I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to take the command. Now what I need to realize is I don't have an interface that has 222 in all 4 octets. So let's go over to R2 and let's modify that behavior. Now keep in mind, we said that we want to permit this traffic. So let's create that interface. So config T, interface LO101, IP address. Actually, let me do it this way just to make things easy. Interface LO222, IP address 22, 222, 222, 222, 255, 255, 2550. Exit. Do show IP route. Let's make sure it's in our routing table. And it should be. Here it is. It's connected. And now what we're going to do is let's see if we can actually source some information from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the idea of ping 1.1.1, source it from LO222. And we have the capability of reaching it. Let's take a look at our access list now. So show access list. Do show access dash list. What we're going to see is that we're not matching on anything here. So again, we're not seeing any values. I would have expected to see values. Well, the problem is I haven't applied it. Again, remember, we have to apply it to the interface. So I'll come in here and say interface G10 IP access group. I'm going to specify I want to use 100, and I'm going to give it the direction of in. Now let's repeat the test. Can I ping? Yes, it's letting me ping. Can I come back to R1 and take a look at the nature of my access list? Now I see I'm actually matching packets. All right, so now let's go back over to R1 and let's ping from another source. Let's ping from LO0. Again, we're going to find that it's failing. The rationale behind its failing is, again, we forgot the implicit deny. So the only traffic we're allowing is the traffic that we explicitly permitted. So let's take a look at see how we would fix that. So in this scenario, it would simply be access-list 100 permit. Let's go ahead and we'll say deny. Access list. Oh, I'm under the interface. Access list 100. What do I want to do? I want to deny any source, any destination. Well, I didn't say IP. IP, any. Now, this IP is where I could specify things like ports. So let's take a look and see what's happening now. Do show IP access list. What do I see? I see my 2 access lists. Here is my access list 100. Here is my specific match where I'm saying any IP packet that's going through. Well, let's modify this. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to go ahead and edit this. So I'll say IP access list, extended access list, and the extended access list is number 100. I want to create a new sequence of 30. And on 30, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I say that I want to permit, let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's say I'm going to permit any IP packet sourced from the host 222.222.222 and destined to 1.1.1, host 1.1.1. And what I want to say here is that I want it to be any traffic that's going to equal what am I doing here? Oh, never mind. So instead of IP, what I'm going to say is I want to allow traffic. Let me go ahead and just redo this command. I'm going to allow a specific type of traffic. So I'm going to say 30, permit. And what do I want to permit? Well, I want to permit any IP traffic that is going to be, let's see, TCP. Permit any TCP traffic from any source to any destination that actually equals 23. So let's take a look and see what I just did. Remember, I specified a port. I said that there was a series of well-known ports that you guys should have memorized. One of them was port 23. That corresponds to telnet. So let's take a look and see what we have here. Do show access list 100. Now notice what's happening here. It's saying that I want to permit TCP any equals telnet. Now, what I'm illustrating here is that the system of the iOS recirculating our access lists are not necessarily 100% accurate. So what I want to do is I want to set up the R1 to be able to receive telnet. So I'm going to say line VTY 0 to 4, and I'm going to go ahead and say password is going to be IP expert. I'm going to tell it to use login. And I'm going to enable password. So enable password IP expert. It's going to bark at me 9 times out of 10. I notice it didn't in this instance because I used the same password, but that's going to be irrelevant. Let's come over here and see what happens when I try to telnet. I'm going to say telnet, and I want to telnet to 1.1.1, and I'm going to source it from LO0. Oh. /source. Notice it's not going to let me go in. Let's see here. Let's say if I can source it from 100. Nothing. Let's take a look at our access list. Let's see what's happening over here. In the confines of the access list, do show access list. What do I see? Well, notice here I have deny IP any. So let's see if we can force this to increment. So let's say, again, let's try just to see if we can do a straight telnet. So telnet to 1.1.1.1. Not going through. 3 matches. Notice it's being denied by sequence 20. The problem is that this was so generic down here that the system really didn't know how to reposition it. So when we come in here, all I end up having to do is edit this access list if I wanted to permit that specific type of traffic. So what I would do here is I would do in exactly what we said before. IP access dash list extended, and I'm going to say 100. I'm going to say no sequence 30. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say sequence 15 permit TCP any equals telnet. Now let's cut over here. Do show access dash list. It's going to show me my list, and now I have 15 in here. Actually, yes it is. It's correct now. So we're going to permit IP host specifics, and we're going to permit, see if we can do TCP IP. So let's go through here and see if we can actually telnet. And now notice I, capital P, expert, is going to let me in. I'm now able to telnet to this device. So the last thing I really want to illustrate here is how we can create a named access list. And we've really already seen the values. So with regard to how we do it, it's config T, and we say IP access dash list. And what we can say is we can come up here and specify extended or standard. Let's go ahead and say standard. And all I'm going to do is give it a name. So I'm going to say test. Now all I do is just specify my sequence. So it's going to be deny any traffic. Nothing. So we go to the interface. Interface G10, and we say IP access dash group. And we're going to specify the access list of test, and we're going to say in. Do show run interface G10. Now what I want you to see here is that we have access group 1 out, and we have IP access group test in. All I'm illustrating is the fact that I can, actually I put this on R2, didn't I? Doggone it. Let me fix this. So no. And we need to get rid of this whole thing. So I'm going to say no IP access list standard test. Do show access list. And really all I wanted to do is just show you how you deploy it, but the main idea is the syntax is the same. So it's not something we're going to worry about. This is going to wrap up our conversation about the basics of access lists. And what we're going to do is we're going to return to our next lesson And that's going to be more theory with regard to the behavior of devices. I'll see you guys there in the next lesson. Bye-bye.